Beneath the ground you walk on every single day, there could be entire cities, not ruins, not broken remains, but full cities, complete with streets, homes, storage rooms, even places where people once gathered, lived, and survived. And the most disturbing part? Some of these cities were not built after disasters. They were built before anything went wrong, almost as if the people who built them were preparing for something. Before we descend into this hidden world, make sure you subscribe and stay with the journey, because what you're about to uncover will completely change how you see ancient civilizations. Because history isn't just written on the surface, it's buried beneath it. One of the most extraordinary examples of this hidden world exists beneath the land of Cappadocia. At first glance, Cappadocia looks like a surreal landscape. Strange rock formations, ancient stone houses carved into hills, a place shaped by nature and time. But what lies beneath it is something far more incredible. Hidden below the surface is one of the largest underground cities ever discovered, Derinkuyu Underground City. This is not a cave. It is not a shelter. It is a massive, multi-level underground city that descends more than 60 meters below the earth. And it was not built randomly. It was engineered, carefully, intentionally, with survival in mind. As you descend into Derinkuyu, level by level, you begin to realize something. This place was designed for life. There are living quarters carved into stone, rooms where families once slept. There are storage areas where food was kept for long periods, wine cellars, kitchens, animal stables, even gathering spaces where communities could come together. And then there are the ventilation shafts, deep vertical tunnels carved through the rock, bringing fresh air into the lowest levels. Without them, life underground would be impossible. But with them, thousands of people could survive. And that's exactly what this city could support. Historians estimate that Derinkuyu could hold up to 20,000 people at once. Think about that. 20,000 people living underground, hidden, protected, invisible. But from what? Because building something like this is not easy. It requires time, labor, planning, knowledge, and most importantly, a reason. One explanation is invasion. Throughout history, this region experienced waves of conflict. Armies moved through the land. Raids were common. Surface cities were vulnerable. But underground, everything changes. Entrances could be hidden. Tunnels could be sealed. Massive circular stone doors, some weighing hundreds of kilograms, could be rolled into place, blocking access completely. Once closed, these doors turned the city into a fortress. And from the outside, it would appear as if no one was there. An entire population, gone, but still alive, just beneath the surface. And Derinkuyu is not alone. Nearby lies another underground city, Cappadocia Underground City. Smaller, but equally complex. Multiple levels, narrow tunnels, hidden rooms, and evidence suggests something even more fascinating. These cities may have been connected through tunnels, hidden passageways stretching across the region. If that's true, then we're not just looking at a single underground city. We're looking at a network, a system, a hidden world beneath the surface. And that changes everything. Because now the question is no longer, why build underground? It becomes, how much of this underground world actually exists? Because similar structures have been discovered in completely different parts of the world. In Rome, beneath the modern streets, lies a vast network of tunnels known as the Roman Catacombs. At first, they appear to be simple burial grounds. Long corridors lined with tombs. Quiet, still, but when you look deeper, you realize their scale. Kilometers of tunnels, multiple levels, hidden chambers. And during times of persecution, these catacombs became more than burial sites. They became places of refuge, places where people could gather, unseen, move through hidden pathways, avoid detection. Once again, the underground becomes a place of survival, a place where life continues when the surface becomes dangerous. And then there's ancient Egypt, a civilization famous for what stands above the ground. The pyramids, the temples, the monuments. But beneath these structures lies another world. Hidden chambers, sealed passages, unknown voids. Inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, modern scanning technology has revealed spaces we still cannot fully explore. Voids that were intentionally built, but never clearly explained. They are not living spaces, not storage rooms, not easily accessible, and yet they exist, which raises a powerful question. What were they built for? Because when you connect all these examples, Cappadocia, Rome, Egypt, you begin to see a pattern. Different civilizations, different time periods, different environments, and yet the same idea. Build below, hide below, survive below. But here's where things become even more interesting, because not all underground spaces show signs of emergency use. Some appear calm, organized, intentional, as if they were part of everyday life, which leads to an even bigger question. Were these underground cities only used in times of crisis, or were they always part of the civilization? Did people move between surface and underground regularly? Did they live part of their lives below ground? Because if that's true, then our understanding of ancient cities is incomplete. We imagine them as surface structures, but maybe every city had a second layer, hidden, invisible, unknown. And if that's the case, how much of it is still out there? Because even today, discoveries are still being made. Construction workers uncover hidden tunnels. Archaeologists detect voids beneath ruins. Entire chambers are revealed after being sealed for centuries, which means one thing. We have not found everything, not even close. There may still be entire underground cities waiting to be discovered, buried beneath deserts, hidden beneath forests, lying beneath modern cities. And when they are found, they may reveal something we are not expecting, something that changes how we understand history itself. Because the deeper we go, the more mysterious it becomes. And in the next part, we go even deeper, into the design, the engineering, the intelligence behind these underground worlds. Because these were not primitive structures. They were advanced, planned, and possibly built with knowledge we still don't fully understand. Stay with the story, because what lies beneath is far more complex than anyone ever imagined. What if these underground cities were not just hiding places, but fully engineered survival systems? Because the deeper we look into these hidden worlds, the more one truth becomes impossible to ignore. These were not built in panic. They were built with precision, with planning, with a level of understanding that feels far ahead of its time. Before we go deeper, make sure you stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to discover may completely change how you see ancient engineering. Because now, we are no longer asking why they built underground. We are asking how they made it possible to survive there. Let's go back beneath Cappadocia. Inside Derinkuyu Underground City, every level reveals something extraordinary. This is not just carved rock. This is design. Intentional design. Take the ventilation system. At first glance, it looks simple, vertical shafts carved into the earth. But when you study them closely, you realize how advanced they are. These shafts run deep, some extending more than 50 meters. They are positioned in a way that allows fresh air to circulate through multiple levels. Even at the lowest depths, oxygen could reach the people living below. Without modern tools, without electricity, ancient builders created a natural airflow system capable of sustaining thousands. That alone is remarkable, but it doesn't stop there. Water, one of the most critical elements for survival, was also carefully planned. Deep wells were carved into underground water sources. But here's what makes them even more fascinating. Some of these wells were accessible only from inside the city, which means that even if enemies found the surface entrance, they could not contaminate the water supply. This is not just engineering. This is strategy. Now think about food. If people were going to stay underground for extended periods, they needed storage. Large storage rooms were built into the rock. Grain could be preserved. Supplies could be protected. Food systems were designed for long-term survival. And then there's movement. The tunnels are narrow, controlled, often forcing people to walk in single file. At first, this may seem inconvenient, but from a defensive perspective, it's genius. If enemies enter the tunnels, they would be slowed down, exposed, easily controlled. Meanwhile, defenders inside would have the advantage. And then there are the doors. Massive circular stone doors, some weighing hundreds of kilograms, placed at key points within the tunnels. These doors could be rolled into place from the inside, sealing entire sections of the city. Once closed, they were nearly impossible to break through. It's a layered defense system, a concept we associate with modern military design. And yet, it existed thousands of years ago, which leads to a powerful realization. These underground cities were not just shelters. They were systems, complete survival systems, designed to sustain life under extreme conditions. And this idea doesn't exist in isolation, because when we look beyond Cappadocia, we see similar patterns. In Rome, beneath the surface, the Roman catacombs stretch for kilometers. While primarily used for burials, their scale and structure reveal something more. These tunnels are not random. They are organized, layered, extensive. During times of persecution, they became places of refuge. People moved through them, gathered in hidden chambers, lived in silence beneath the city. And again, we see the same principle. The underground is a space for survival, a hidden layer of civilization. Now shift your attention to Egypt, a civilization known for monumental architecture. But beneath the surface, we find something equally fascinating. Hidden chambers inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. Modern scanning has revealed voids, spaces that were intentionally built but remain unexplored. These are not living areas, not storage rooms, and yet they were constructed with precision, which raises a question. If they were not designed for survival, then what were they designed for? Because when you compare these underground structures across different civilizations, a pattern begins to emerge. They all show signs of planning, of intention, of understanding, and perhaps most importantly, of preparation. Preparation for what? That's the question that keeps returning. Because building underground requires effort, time, resources, and a clear purpose. You don't create something this complex without a reason. One explanation is environmental. Underground spaces provide stable temperatures, protection from extreme heat and cold, safety from storms. In regions where the climate could be unpredictable, going underground offered a reliable environment. Another explanation is conflict, war, invasion, instability. In such conditions, underground cities would provide safety, a place where populations could disappear without leaving the land. But even these explanations may not be enough, because the scale of some of these underground systems goes far beyond what is necessary for short-term survival. They are too large, too complex, too advanced, which suggests something else, something deeper. What if ancient civilizations understood risk in a way we don't fully understand today? What if they anticipated long-term threats, not just immediate danger, but prolonged instability? Because if that's true, then these underground cities were not just built as a reaction. They were built as a strategy, a long-term plan, a way to ensure survival, no matter what happened above. And that idea changes everything, because it means these civilizations were thinking ahead, planning for scenarios that might not happen immediately, preparing for a future they could not fully predict. And that level of thinking is not primitive. It's advanced, highly advanced, which leads us to the next stage of this journey. Because if these underground cities were designed as systems, then the next question becomes even more important. Were they connected? Because if they were, then we are not just looking at isolated survival systems. We are looking at a network, a hidden world beneath the surface, a world where movement, communication, and survival could all take place unseen. Stay with the story, because in the next part, we go deeper than ever before into the possibility that these underground cities were part of something much larger, a connected system that may have stretched far beyond a single region and far beyond what we've discovered so far. What if these underground cities were never meant to be isolated? What if they were designed to be connected, forming a hidden world beneath the surface? Because as researchers continue to explore deeper, a new possibility begins to emerge. These were not just individual cities. They may have been part of something much larger. Before we go deeper, make sure you stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to uncover could completely change how we understand ancient civilizations. Because now, we are no longer looking at a single underground city. We are looking at a system, a network, a hidden layer of the ancient world. Let's return once again to Cappadocia. Hey, cities like Derinkuyu Underground City and Cappadocia Underground City are located just a few kilometers apart. But what makes this even more fascinating is that there's evidence suggesting they may have been connected, underground, through tunnels. Some of these tunnels stretch for kilometers. Narrow, controlled pathways carved into the rock. If fully functional, they would have allowed people to move between cities without ever coming to the surface. Think about that. A hidden transportation system. Invisible, protected, silent. A network where entire populations could relocate without being seen. And suddenly, the purpose of underground cities begins to shift. They are no longer just shelters. They are nodes, part of a larger system. But Cappadocia is not the only place where this pattern appears. In parts of Germany and Austria, researchers have discovered mysterious underground tunnels often referred to as Erdstall. These are not natural caves. They are man-made, narrow passages carved into the earth, some so tight that a person must crawl through them, others opening into small chambers. Their purpose is still debated. Some believe they were used as escape routes. Others suggest ritual use. But what stands out is their presence across wide regions. And once again, we see a familiar idea. Underground pathways. Hidden. Intentional. Now travel across the world to Peru. Beneath ancient sites, there are reports of underground tunnels extending far beyond what has been fully explored. Local traditions even speak of long passages connecting distant locations beneath the land. While not all of these claims are confirmed, enough evidence exists to suggest something important. Underground construction was not rare. It was widespread. And when similar ideas appear across different civilizations, it raises a powerful question. Were these societies developing similar solutions independently, or were they responding to similar conditions? Because building underground is not easy. It requires planning, labor, knowledge of structure, understanding of airflow, stability, and access. And yet, across continents, we see the same patterns. Hidden entrances, narrow tunnels, ventilation systems, controlled movement, defensive design. It's almost as if different civilizations followed the same blueprint, or arrived at the same conclusion, that survival sometimes depends on what lies beneath. Now imagine this, a world where surface life was not always safe, where environmental changes, conflict, or unknown threats made living above ground unpredictable. In such a world, underground networks would offer something unique. Security, continuity, control, a way to survive without being exposed. But there's another possibility, one that takes this idea even further. What if these underground networks were not just for protection, but for movement? Because if tunnels connected multiple cities, they could allow people to travel unseen, to move goods, to communicate, to relocate entire groups without being detected. It would be a completely different kind of infrastructure. Not roads above ground, but pathways below, hidden highways beneath the earth. And if that idea is even partially true, then what we have discovered so far may only be a small part of something much larger. Because many of these tunnels remain unexplored. Collapsed sections block access. Unknown chambers remain sealed. And in many cases, modern cities have been built directly above ancient underground systems, which means that beneath our feet, right now, there may be entire sections of these networks still waiting to be discovered. Unseen, untouched, unknown. And that leads to one final, unsettling thought. What if some of these underground networks were never abandoned? What if they were simply forgotten? Because history is written by what survives on the surface. But underground, things remain hidden, preserved, protected, and sometimes lost until they are discovered again. Which brings us to the next part of this journey, because what we are about to explore goes beyond cities and beyond tunnels. We are about to enter spaces that do not look like homes, do not function like shelters, and may not have been built for survival at all. Spaces that feel intentional, precise, and deeply mysterious. Stay with the story, because what lies ahead may be the most unexplained part of the underground world yet. What if some underground spaces were never meant to protect life, but to serve a purpose we no longer understand? Because as we move deeper into the hidden world beneath ancient cities, something begins to change. The structures stop looking like homes. They stop feeling like shelters. And instead, they begin to feel intentional in a completely different way. Before we uncover these strange underground spaces, Make sure you stay with the journey and subscribe, because what we are about to explore may challenge everything we think we know about ancient civilizations. Because now, we are entering the most mysterious layer of the underground world. Spaces that do not follow the rules. Spaces that do not explain themselves. Spaces that raise more questions than answers. In ancient Egypt, beneath some of the most iconic structures ever built, lies a hidden layer that remains largely unexplored. Inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, modern scanning technology has revealed voids, spaces that were intentionally created, yet remain sealed. These voids are not random gaps. They are aligned with a structure, placed with precision, designed with purpose. But that purpose is unknown. They are too small to live in, too isolated for storage, too deliberate to be accidental, which raises a powerful question. Why build something so carefully and then hide it? Some researchers believe these spaces had symbolic meaning, perhaps part of a spiritual journey, a representation of movement between life and the afterlife. Others suggest they may have been designed to protect something, a chamber hidden so deeply it was never meant to be easily found. But there's no single answer, and that uncertainty is what makes it so fascinating, because when we look beyond Egypt, we find even more unusual examples. In Malta, there exists a structure unlike anything else in the ancient world, the House Saflieni Hypogeum. At first glance, it appears to be an underground complex, carved entirely into rock, multiple levels, interconnected chambers. But what makes it truly extraordinary is how it behaves. The chambers are shaped in a way that affects sound. Certain frequencies resonate through the walls. Voices echo with unusual clarity. Some tones amplify dramatically. Standing inside, even a whisper can travel in ways that feel unnatural. It's as if the space itself was designed to interact with sound. But why? What purpose would require such precision? Some believe it was used for rituals involving chanting. Others think it may have played a role in spiritual practices connected to sound and consciousness. But once again, there's no definitive answer. And that is the pattern we keep encountering. Precision without explanation, design without clear purpose. And then there are even more subtle examples. In regions of Turkey, beyond the massive underground cities, archaeologists, what if everything we've discovered so far is only the beginning? Because when you step back and connect all the pieces, the underground cities, the hidden tunnel networks, the unexplained chambers, you start to see something that is impossible to ignore. This wasn't random. This wasn't rare. This was repeated across civilizations, across continents, across thousands of years. Before we reveal the final truth behind these underground worlds, make sure you stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to understand may completely change how you see ancient history, because now everything connects. In Cappadocia, massive underground cities like Derinkuyu Underground City and Cappadocia Underground City were built deep beneath the surface, capable of sustaining entire populations. In Rome, the vast Roman Catacombs created a hidden layer beneath a living city. In Egypt, the unexplained voids inside the Great Pyramid of Giza continue to challenge modern understanding. And in Malta, the House Saflieni Hypogeum reveals a level of design that goes far beyond simple survival. Different locations, different cultures, different time periods. And yet, the same idea keeps appearing. Build below, hide below, preserve below. This is not coincidence. This is a pattern. And when patterns repeat across history, they point to something important. One explanation is survival. Underground environments offer stability, protection from extreme weather, safety from disasters, a controlled space in an unpredictable world. But if survival was the only reason, then why go so far? Why build multi-level cities capable of supporting thousands? Why create tunnel networks that stretch for kilometers? Why design chambers with precision, symmetry, and even acoustic properties? These are not just shelters. They are systems. And systems are built with long-term thinking, which leads to a deeper possibility. What if these underground worlds were designed not just to protect people, but to preserve something? Because underground, time slows down. Structures are protected. Artifacts remain hidden. Entire environments can survive for thousands of years. What if ancient civilizations understood this? What if they intentionally built underground to ensure that something would survive even if everything above ground was lost? knowledge, culture, beliefs, history. Because if you wanted to protect something from time itself, the safest place would not be above the ground. It would be beneath it. And then comes the most powerful question of all. What if we haven't found everything yet? Because even today, discoveries continue. Hidden tunnels beneath cities, sealed chambers beneath ruins, unknown void detected by modern scanning. And many of these discoveries happen by accident. A construction project reveals a hidden passage. A collapse exposes an ancient entrance. A scan detects a space where nothing should exist. Which means this story is far from over. There may still be entire underground worlds waiting to be discovered. Cities beneath cities. Networks beneath continents. Secrets buried deep beneath our feet. And the most fascinating part? The people who built these places knew they might not be seen. They built them knowing they would remain hidden, waiting for someone, someday, to find them. So the next time you walk through a city, think about what lies beneath. Because beneath the roads, beneath the buildings, beneath the noise of everyday life, there could be another world. Silent, ancient, hidden in darkness. A world that still holds answers to questions we haven't even asked yet. And maybe, one day, those answers will change everything we know about the past. If you want to explore more hidden histories, lost civilizations, and the mysteries buried beneath our world, make sure you subscribe and stay with us. Because history isn't gone. It's just hidden, waiting to be discovered.